Hello, everyone. My name is Gus.
Hi, I'm Woody.
Today we have a request from an incident that happened at Indian Springs. Indian Springs, a beautiful cave in Florida, which I would pay insane amount of money to be able to dive. It's close to the public.
Yeah.
But a while ago, they had an incident there. So I wanna cover that.
Okay.
Indian Springs is located 13 miles south of Tallahassee, near the Bethel community. It's a beautiful circular pool with green algae floating in clumps around its edges, giving its clear water a greenish tint. Surrounding the pool are platforms, observation decks, water slides, and canoes. These installations were built by Tallahassee's YMCA in order to turn the pool and the surrounding dense forest into a recreational area. The pool is not considered big, only measuring 185 feet in diameter and 30 feet deep.
180 feet not considered deep or big?
Is that it, by the way?
No.
We still don't
this
have the real one.
Does this look like Florida to you?
Yeah.
With all the pines and mountains?
I don't see any mountains. But I mean, why? Okay. I'm just wondering when we're going to see Indian Springs.
Well, eventually.
It's about Indian Springs.
Yeah.
Okay.
However, on the north side of the pool's sandy bottom lies a semicircular limestone entrance that leads to a much larger underwater cave system with smooth sand at the bottom and hard and delicate limestone walls and ceilings.
Beautiful.
This underwater system is like a siren that lures many divers to explore its depths. WKPP, or Woodville Karst Plane Project, is a non-profit organization established in 1990. Its mission is to map the underwater caverns underlying the Woodville Karst Plain, a vast 450 square mile area that runs from Tallahassee, Florida, U.S. to the Gulf of Mexico. Parker and Gavin were part of this organization. Since its establishment, WKPP had already explored and recorded miles of cave passages underlying WAKULLA Springs and the Florida aquifer. In the process,
I want to pause right here for a second because I want to talk a little bit about WKPP.
Okay.
So I think one of my favorite things that we do in Dive Talk is that we expose people to these legends and organizations as well that most people don't know about, that we know about because we're cave divers, but most people don't know about WKPP. I feel like he spent like 5 seconds in this thing and then move on. Like, Gavin and Parker were part of WKPP. No, they were founding members of WKPP, but that's not the part that I want to focus on. It's about WKPP itself. So let me read you a little bit of WKPP. WKPP is the only organization currently allowed to dive in some of these caves, like Indian Springs, which are all on the state, federal, and private land, due to the extreme nature of the systems and the discipline required to safely explore them. Although these caves were explored extensively prior to the establishment of the WKPP, so they weren't the first ones, but then they came, and this was created again back in the day in 1990 or whatever it was, by Bill Gavin, Bill Main, and later joined by Parker Turner, who's the guy that's the subject of this video. Fun fact about Bill Main, by the way. Bill Main, who's a legend in cave diving, his middle name is Hogarth. That's the guy where the Hogarthian method came from. Bill Main, they took his middle name Hogarth, and Hogarthian was born, which is something practiced in DIR. Like GUE, all those agencies follow a Hogarthian method, which is basically a method of simplicity. Take only what you need, don't take more stuff, and everything should be set up in a way and whatnot. Anyway, that was born at WKPP. But listen to this. WKPP divers hold every deep distance record in underwater cave diving. Every one. Okay? Below 190 feet or 58 meters. WKPP director Casey McKinley and Jared Jablonski, who's the guy who created GUE, hold the world's record for the greatest distance below 190 feet from air in a cave dive. 25,789 feet from the entrance.
Wow. That, everybody, is massive.
What?
They're like 5 miles back from the entrance.
Yep. 7,000 860 meters. So almost 8 kilometers
Wow.
from air. Okay? At WAKULLA Springs. At an average depth, the average depth for that dive, 275 feet.
Wow.
84 meters.
How long was that dive? I mean, I can't even imagine.
This record dive required more than 29 hours of submersion. A 29-hour dive.
Next level. Next level. I mean, it's a whole nother level.
Including 16 hours of decompression, also a record. 16 hours of deco. That's more than the guys who set records for deepest dive. They spend like 12, 14 hours. This guy did 16, okay? The WKPP also holds the world's record for the longest traverse between two known entry points. Get ready. 35,791 feet to do a traverse. What? That is almost 11 kilometers from one hole, 11 kilometers to another hole.
Wow. Yeah.
36,000 feet.
I had no idea. That's incredible.
Between Turner Sink and WAKULLA Springs. Wow. At an average depth of 275 feet.
Wow.
The WKPP is also responsible for exploring and mapping more cave passage below 190 feet than any other organization in the world. 108,584 feet below 190 feet. They've mapped. These guys are legit. In total, WKPP explorers have mapped and explored 144,000 feet of caves as of June of 2018, which means there's way more now 5 years later. So these guys are legit. They're as good as it gets. Amazing explorers. Amazing organization.
I mean,
WKPP is legit.
They've devoted their life to this.
So I wanted to mention that, give him a shout out. We're not affiliated with WKPP. I really admire those guys. WKPP, KUR, all of these agencies that do cave mapping and cave exploring for a living. These guys are the best of the best.
Yep.
All right, back to the video.
They have also been preparing to enter a series of other caves. One of them was the Indian Springs Cave, whose unique profile and depth of more than 130 feet made it hard for casual recreational divers to explore. Diving in this cave would require experience, specialized training, and a custom mix of gases that divers can safely breathe in while exploring in the deep. WKPP had prepared for this dive for nearly 2 years. On November 17, 1991, they finally set out to meet at Indian Springs. The dive plan consisted of a 40-minute transit at 140 feet depth, a 20 to 25-minute search for unexplored passages at a depth of 300 feet, followed by the return 40-minute transit to exit the cave, a simple in and out. Supported by other WKPP members, Parker and Gavin made the dive. Everything went almost exactly according to plan. However, when they were returning to the entrance to complete their decompression, something went terribly, horribly wrong. George Irvine was one of the support divers during the Indian Springs dive.
Legend.
He and his diving partner, Lamar English, were tasked to place the deep decompression bottles along the guideline. Another team, Bill Main and his diving partner, were to follow behind them to place the intermediate bottles. The rest of the WKPP were on land and in the basin, ready to provide help when needed. Irvine was the one to mix their backgas, but he didn't know that the cave went deeper than 150. Certain depths require different gas specifications. Diving deeper with the wrong mix is extremely dangerous, so having no choice, the two stopped at 110, clipped off the deco bottles for Parker and Gavin before turning back to the entrance. They were out of the cave at 50 feet. There they find Bill Main and his partner decompressing. At the same time, Irvine's computer wanted an unrealistic deco. He had to take it off, strapped it to his scooter, before dropping the scooter to the floor below. 4 minutes later, everything suddenly turned chaotic. Water went rushing past them, and silt and debris from who knows where created an underwater sandstorm. Irvine and Main frantically swam to the ceiling. They thought Irvine's scooter had somehow run off and was thrashing the place. In reality, the scooter was sitting peacefully at the bottom. What really happened is that some limestone formation was suddenly dislodged from the cave ceiling, creating a hole and pulling in sand, silt, and debris, which then rushed in from above like a landslide.
Wow.
Visibility quickly dropped to near zero. Above, the support team saw the water level quickly sinking, a temporary reversal of the flow, before just as quickly returning back to normal levels. The rushing water pulled the sand and debris over the restriction at the entrance of the cave, and then all movement stopped. All of the silt and clouds of sand were suddenly gone, sucked into the cave. Irvine and company were surprised to find themselves in clear water again, as if the previous sandstorm was nothing but hallucinations. Irvine dropped down to his scooter, still believing that it was somehow responsible for the chaos, but the scooter was untouched. None of them realized what had truly happened. Even the team above thought it was nothing but a bizarre incident. Below, deep in the caves, Parker and Gavin were fighting for their lives. After 23 minutes of exploring the deep section known as WAKULLA Room, the two divers were ready to head back to the surface. They used their scooters to ascend faster. At 500 feet near the entrance, after turning left in an upstream-downstream junction, they noticed the visibility dropping fast. A billowing cloud of silt rose, quickly obscuring the cave floor from view. Thankfully, near the ceiling where their guideline was sitting, the water was still clear. They followed their line to the entrance, but with every foot they traversed, the worse the visibility got. They had no choice but to drop. Finally, they had to leave their scooters behind and swim while maintaining physical line contact. After several minutes, they reached Squaw's restriction, a narrow obstruction that they had to pass in order to get to the cave entrance. Visibility in this area was less than 1 foot. Parker and Gavin were both experienced divers. Realizing that the situation cannot be easily resolved, the two quickly adapted, switching between bottles to make their gas last as long as they could.
They're an open circuit.
They have two lines running parallel in the cave at this point. However, the ends of both lines were buried in the sand, and despite numerous attempts, the lines cannot be retrieved.
Wow, there was that much sand that they could not get the line.
Just imagine that you're following a line. Visibility is bad, which we both have been in zero vis. You're following the line, and you're super calm because, again, you have no vis, but you have a line. And then the line hits a wall of sand. Just think about that. Because of how safe do you feel when you have the line in zero vis? 100%.
Yeah, I'm trying to visualize it. It's a wall of sand. It's literally it, because that was pretty big, right? I mean, they had to have 10, 15 feet of bottom to top.
Yeah. So imagine
10 or 15 feet of a pure wall.
Yeah.
Now when you
all
hit
the sand
it,
came
it's
and
just
buried
sand.
them.
And it did bury it. Buried it. There's no way
it closed
to dig out of
it.
that.
It sealed the exit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing you can do is dig.
Dig?
I mean, you dig until you can't dig anymore and hope you can get out.
Yeah.
There's nothing else you can do.
Yeah. And this is why rebreathers are so useful, because
time.
If you did that dive, you will be like, okay, well, I have hours to dig. But if you're in open circuit, you may have minutes.
45 minutes passed, but all of their efforts to look for a way out was in vain. At this point, Parker showed Gavin his pressure gauge, which indicated 400 psig of gas left. It wasn't much. Deciding to do one last attempt, Gavin told Parker to hold on while he went back to search using his reel. But 5 minutes passed, and he still did not find an exit. Gavin returned, but Parker was not where he left him. By this time, Gavin himself only had less than 300 psig of gas.
Wow.
With no other alternatives, he made a last-ditch effort at finding an opening. Miraculously, he found another line teed into the permanent line. Without hesitation, Gavin followed this line until he reached a point where the cave seemed to open up. He looked up and realized that he had cleared the restriction. Almost out of gas, he raced to where their decompression bottles were hanging at about 100 feet. While he began breathing from his deco bottle, he realized that Parker was not there. He had drowned. Gavin was later found by the support team, who explained what happened. After 4 hours of decompression, Gavin surfaced with no physical damage. Following the tragedy, the team laid out many lines throughout the cave to try to locate Parker's body. though he wasn't found until the following morning when visibility had improved to 10 feet. Since the accident, nobody has been able to explain what really happened. Some speculated that a diver testing out a new scooter had impacted the cave, causing the collapse. Others said that land clearing with explosives nearby was the cause. There was also a theory about how scuba divers exhaled gases during decompression that may have been the cause, but no scientific support has been offered until now. Doran Knopf, a Nansen professor of physical oceanography at Florida State University, is a longtime scuba diver who has been interested in the Indian Springs accident for years. He said that various opinions about the accident didn't add up, so he set out to do his own research and formulated a theory, which he published in 2009. Following that, Knopf wrote a paper detailing experiments that demonstrated the physics that led to the tragedy at Indian Springs. Apparently, the reason for the collapse was indeed the bubbles exhaled during decompression. Long deep dives like the one in Indian Springs require divers to do longer decompression
Makes you want the
stops than
rebreather even
normal.
more.
Decompressing for more than 30 minutes in a small cave at 10 to 20 feet deep will build up exhaled gases
Just
that will be
imagine
trapped
breathing
at the
out
top
for
of the
30
cave.
minutes.
Bubbles change the density of the water and reduce buoyancy, which affects the stability of the limestone and dolomite, making up the cave walls and ceiling. On the day of the disaster, several divers had contributed to the exhaled gases, which changed the buoyancy of the water. The limestone in the ceilings became heavier until it eventually dislodged and crashed onto the floor cave. This theory had far-reaching implications for cave divers everywhere,
But
as
we learned this
decompression is a necessary
cave dive
stop that must
training.
be done in order to adjust the body before resurfacing. Considering this, Knopf only has
Just
one
displaced
recommendation
that much
for cave
water
divers.
where that rock
Avoid
was getting heavier
decompression
and
in
heavier
same
because the
place
water was
if
holding
you
it up.
suspect that the ceiling above you contains some rocks which may fall down due to bubbles.
Yeah. So
Wow.
yeah. So basically, what he's saying is, when the cave is underwater completely and nobody has dived through it, right? The water is heavier than air, so the water has more strength to hold the rock up, right? And when you start breathing air, the air will start putting bubbles in it and make this gap of air. There used to be water holding the rock, and now it's air. So if the rock is unstable, it's not that the rock is heavier. It still weighs the same, but the water was able to hold it, but not the air, so the rock can collapse. That's what he's talking about, is all these bubbles for 30 minutes, an hour, whatever, everybody breathing out, breathing out. It made enough of a gap that the rock couldn't be held anymore and came down and buried them.
What I'm thinking is, imagine that you're on the open circuit and I show you, I got 400 to 300, and I know I can't get out. You know, I'm pretty much, you just don't give up till the end. But
Right.
the feeling has got to be just this feeling of complete, like, I'm gonna die.
Yeah.
Like
This is it.
death crosses your mind at that point. Like, this is going to be the end of my life soon. Here,
Yeah.
that's rough.
And they were deep too. Remember when they were buried, they were like 100 plus feet or whatever. They were 30 meters down there. I mean, man, really,
tough
really tough. Makes me love my rebreather even more. I still will love to dive at Indian Springs.
But it does make you, want to say that you can't say cave diving is not dangerous. You can't get on a show like this and say, it's exaggeration. Cave
Walk in the
diving
park.
is dangerous. It is. There's no maybe it's not. No, it's dangerous. We do so many things to mitigate the danger. But a collapse is a real possibility.
Sure, it could happen.
Especially in cave exploration, especially in new areas that you've never been, that you don't know if air is going to be able to dislodge.
Yeah.
I mean, air in Jenny Springs on the passage that has been traveled a gazillion times, probably not going to happen. But a brand new section like this, that's a real risk.
Yeah.
And that's why cave exploration is an entirely different level of risk and the need to know what you're doing. And not that they didn't, because there's nothing they could have done with that. Right. So just another level of risk way, way over and above cave diving in known caves. And you just have to acknowledge it if you want to be an explorer.
Yeah, we do get these questions, you know, from people that want to kind of put our backs against the wall, where they're like, well, what if you lose the line? What if your rebreather fails? What if whatever? There comes a point where there's no what ifs. Like, you die. Like, you know, a cave collapsing, burying you, you die. And that, I mean, that's something that we have to accept when we go in these cave exploration dives, when we go even in cave dives. Now, obviously, like if you go diving on a cave that is well transited, right? You like Genie Springs, the Devil's Cave system or whatever. Those caves have been there for millennia, right? They've been getting earthquakes. They've been getting all kinds of stuff and tons of people with bubbles. And it's way more stable than a brand new cave like Indian Springs they were exploring. But like you said, it is dangerous.
Yeah, it's just easier for me to talk to people that are admitting the truth.
Sure.
If you want to do cave exploration, great. I recommend you do it with somebody that absolutely has a ton of experience. Don't go doing it by yourself, because it's another level of risk beyond cave diving, and you may die. You don't know if where you're going to explore is going to collapse.
Yeah.
I mean, just say
it how it is. We've been in caves
is.
like that, right? Like the cave that we explored in Cozumel with Mike. I mean, there were some passages that I was laying in line for the first time.
Good.
They were tight, and as I'm going through, there's stuff raining on me. And I'm like, well, when will the silt that is raining on me become rocks and become because it was shallow. I mean, you can see the roots from the trees hanging through the walls. So, and you're there and you're like, could this just be the whole roof falling on me?
Could be.
Like a sinkhole?
I mean,
could be.
We know it could be because it's happened. It's happened more than just this incident. So, So anyway, that's my reaction. My reaction
tragedy,
is
obviously, we lost a legend of cave diving in the process, but we have talked about Indian Springs before. We actually believe this may be the most beautiful cave in Florida. We talked about this before, and I'm going to leave it right here in case you want to watch some more of Indian Springs, which is absolutely gorgeous. And we would love to go. I wish we were given a chance to go. Please.
Yeah.
Let us make it happen.
So, bye everybody. This was a tough one. That was a tough one.
See you in the next one.